and afterwards we will have a presentation from Ashley Batchelder, who is the Interim Executive Director of the Metro Arts Commission, and she'll be updating on what is happening with arts distribution and grants distribution and other things. I do have a consent agenda. I would like to put items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8 on consent. If you all want to have a quick look at those items and let me know if anything needs to be taken off of consent. I see the wheels turning.
No. It's that my readers are down in my car.
Oh,
So I've suddenly and spontaneously turned into my mother.
That happens to the best. Does anything need to come off consent? Great. If not, I will go ahead and read the captions. Here's our consent agenda. Item number 1, RS 2025-1556, a resolution approving an application for a Beaman Park Protection Grant from the Tennessee Heritage Conservation Trust Fund to the Conservation Fund, TFC, in partnership with Metro Nashville Parks to acquire approximately 308 acres adjoining Alvin G. Beaman Park in Davidson County to add a unique urban wilderness within the city of Nashville. Item number 2, RS 2025-1561, a resolution accepting a Project Diabetes Grant from the Tennessee Department of Health to the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Nashville Farmers Market to utilize the Fresh Bucks program to provide nutrition support for the community by doubling every Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, dollars spent with one of the farmers markets healthy food options. Item number 3, RS 2025-1572, a resolution approving Amendment 2 to a grant contract with Why We Can't Wait Incorporated for the provision of free and high-quality out-of-school programs through the Nashville After School Zone Alliance. Item number 4, RS 2025-1573, a resolution accepting an in-kind grant from the Centennial Park Conservancy to the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation, to support expenses for the current improvement project on Centennial Park's north side. Item number 5, RS 2025-1574, a resolution approving Amendment 3 to the Centennial Park Master Plan Support Grant from the Centennial Park Conservancy to the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Metropolitan Nashville Parks and Recreation Department to support the implementation of the Centennial Park Master Plan. Item number 6, RS 2025-1575, a resolution approving an application for a Child and Adult Care Food Program grant from the Tennessee Department of Human Services to the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Metro Parks and Recreation Department to provide nutritious meals and snacks for children attending after-school programs at 17 community center locations. And last on consent, item number 8, BL 2025-1062, an ordinance amending section 2.154.010.b of the Metropolitan Code of Laws by changing the council member representation on the Greenway and Open Space Commission. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Does anything need to come off consent after hearing the captions? Any discussion on anything on consent? All in favor of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone not voting? The consent agenda passes with bells. The only remaining item on our agenda is a bill on second reading, BL 2025-1050, an ordinance approving an agreement between the Metropolitan Government and Nashville Riverfront Amphitheater, LLC, an affiliate of Opry Entertainment Group, relating to management, operation, and maintenance of the West Riverfront Amphitheater and supporting grounds and buildings. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion, questions? I would like to invite you, sir, whose name is escaping me right now that I have to say it, to please give us a little bit of information about what is happening.
His father.
Sam's father. I'd like to invite Sam's father, Colin, to tell us a little bit about
Colin Reed. Thank you. I wanted to come along. Colin Reed, I'm executive chairman of Ryman. I've been CEO of the company up until 2 years ago for 22 years, and have been very much part of the transition of the music industry here in this town. This is a very exciting time for, I think, our company and also the city of Nashville. what is going on right now is the music that originates in this city is becoming ubiquitous across the planet. Last 2 weeks ago, I was with Patrick Moore, the CEO of our entertainment business in London, where we did the Opry at the Royal Albert Hall. And the overwhelming support from Northern Europe is extraordinary. It went out on BBC TV. The airline seats are absolutely full from London, from Dublin, from Iceland, and from northern Scandinavia. And what is happening is absolutely extraordinary. And our company has been in the middle of this for the last, I would say, 20 years, and we feel very proud about the role that we have played in the explosion of tourism in this city. Let me touch on the amphitheater and why it's important. Our view is that that piece of real estate is probably one of the most valuable pieces of real estate in Davidson County. And I think when we put forward our commitment to operate this and to put forward a large capital commitment to upgrade it, we believe that amphitheater, that piece of real estate can play a much more important role in the entertainment industry of this city. You know, I think back to Opryland back into the 70s and the 80s. We used to close that hotel from Thanksgiving to Christmas because we couldn't fill it. We couldn't put anybody in it. And now we've programmed it with wonderful things through that period from Thanksgiving to the end of the year, and it's now the busiest time of year. And I think what we have to do with that great piece of real estate, and I understand the issue of sound and the inconvenience that is, but that piece of real estate needs to really be activated, and we are very excited to be part of it. We look forward to putting capital into unlocking it and doing the same, I think, and this may sound a little arrogant, and if it does, forgive me, but I think what we do as a company is, by and large, high quality. When you look at the quality of the Opry, when you look at the quality of the Ryman, you look at the quality of Opryland, what we've done with Old Red, what we've done with Category 10, these are high quality, high performing businesses. And we want to do the same with that amphitheater and make it something really special. And as we look forward over the next 10 years, we see a lot more growth coming here in Davidson County, generating a lot more employment, a lot more taxes, and we hope this amphitheater plays a very important role in that growth. So thank you for taking the time to listen to what I have to say, and thank you, committee, for taking this on, and we appreciate your support.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions?
Do we have an amendment?
Oh, we do have an amendment. We have an amendment by Councilmember Toombs, which I do not have in front of me. Brian, do you have the amendment, or could you explain what the amendment is?
I can. Essentially, this amendment would replace the contract exhibit, which would, the amended contract would add language regarding the developer's access to Metro Greenway space while doing repairs and upgrades to the Greenway facility.
As in, they would not be impacting the Greenway while they're doing all that, or?
I believe this just ensures that they would have access to Metro-owned property. But we can defer to
I can help with that.
official in the mayor's
Chris Coster
office.
with the mayor's office. Yeah, the amendment is really to allow the team here to build a bridge Greenway access outside of the amphitheater property to give them direct access to that property so they can expedite the Greenway. The goal to be have that complete before the operating season next year. So this just allows direct access rather than going through a bunch of different easements for Metro. So it's an opportunity to expedite the Greenway access.
Seems logical.
Do I have a motion on the amendment?
Move.
Second.
Any other questions on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? Do we have any discussion on the bill as amended? May I have a motion on that?
Move.
Second.
Okay. Did you have questions?
Yes, and thank you for being here. I appreciate a lot of the investments that you have, committed to make. So thank you for those. I represent a district across the river, and the sound issue has gotten a lot better in the last couple years. But that's a concern, I know, not just for my part of town, but for others too. So I understand that the rules around decibel levels and production of sound are the same as they have always been under the preceding contract. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And one thing I found extremely useful is that Live Nation, whatever their many faults, they did do one thing well, which is that they provided a staff contact for me during all events, and I'm sure other council members as well, to reach out to say, can you check the levels? I'm getting some complaints or what's going on. And that person had operational authority to sort of ask that the noise go down to within the levels. Are you committing to providing that same kind of responsiveness?
Let me answer that question if I can. I'd like to answer it in a little bit of a different way. The answer is, of course. But do remember, we employ 4,000 people here. You know, we have 2,500 at Opryland, 1,500 in our entertainment business, and we want to be the very best, you know, have the very best relationship with this community. We're not an organization that happens to be living in LA or living in New York. We're here. This is our home. We have $4 billion tied up here. And the notion of inconveniencing, you know, your community on the East Bank that's not in our DNA. You'll have a senior, I'll give you my cell phone, okay, if there's an issue. But I can promise you that we will jump on this stuff. This is our home. We want this to be the best it can be.
I value that a lot. I just want a commitment from you all to have someone on site monitoring sound and responding if the sound is out of level.
We're in the throes right now of recruiting an individual to run this. We have a person that has tremendous amphitheater experience that will be over that person, and you'll have both of their cell phone numbers.
But I'm grateful for that, thank you. I just want to make sure that that person will be able in real time to get noise back within level if it's ever out of level and that issue's getting raised.
That concept.
Yeah, we'll have a monitoring device on premises very similar to what took place with Live Nation, and we'll be monitoring that and obviously reporting to the Parks Department as well.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
I do have a question. Are you adding anything in addition to the sound to mitigate the sound that is something that perhaps Live Nation didn't do to mitigate that on the front end?
Not on sound.
Not on sound.
There's, no, not directly on sound.
We're going to upgrade significantly. We've had an organization which is one of the best on the planet called Populous that do massive, wonderful, big, large-scale entertainment. We've had them help us think about the work inside of the arena to make it more user-friendly for the consumer. We're doing work on that.
Just if I might, there was a learned process early in the original amphitheater. We ended up constructing the sound mitigation agreement with Live Nation. We've incorporated that into the agreement, so it sets for certain decibel levels within the concert season, notifications, hours of operation related to that, and then a monitoring system, as the council member mentioned, related to if you exceed to that, and then automatic notification goes out to the Parks Department, and then they can address that issue as well. So we have a much more robust series of mitigation and measures in there for the sound that was not part of the original agreement in the first 10 years. So, and this team is committed to monitoring that and having those devices on site, and we'll be able to continue that process where hopefully things have gotten better because of that. Being an East Nashville resident myself, as Councilmember Cap knows, I've experienced a lot of backyard concerts for free, which has been awfully nice, depending on who it is. But I agree. I think this team is really committed to making sure they do the right thing related to the neighborhood noise reduction.
And it has gotten better. I mean, it's significantly better than it was a couple of years ago.
Sam Ewing?
Okay, so as an exiting member of the Greenways and Open Space Commission, I just wanted to find out a little bit more about the Greenways segment that's involved in this project and how it fits with our overall puzzle in that vicinity.
Let me take that one too, if
Sure,
I might. I know, because Cynthia is working with this team in terms of what that looks like, but we've committed to a couple of things in this agreement. One, we understand the difficulties that have impacted I'll call that sort of the east side Greenway access. as opposed to the West Side Greenway access for load in, load out during shows and events where that's been closed. So there's a couple of commitments in here. We'll always be open during operation. So even if there's a function here within this team that there's some reason the Greenway isn't accessible, they'll make a management commitment to always keep that access open. But the more important thing is there's a concept to create kind of a bridge that's outside of the amphitheater footprint that kind of takes you from KVB down to the train station effectively, that circumnavigates that sort of shared sidewalk greenway that's been a problem ever since the amphitheater opened. And so part of that amendment is committing them to get on site to construct that enhancement, to get it done before the operating season. That's the goal here, so that there isn't some time when this might be conflicting with each other. So,
Excellent.
yeah, and they've committed the capital investment into building their greenways well, including design funding. So that's a pretty
Also
substantial contribution from the team here. We appreciate it. So, and they'll be working directly with Cynthia's team to get that done over the next month or so.
And I just have one final question. If you were in here today to do this whole pitch to us as to why we should sign this contract with you, what is the unique benefit that you bring in taking over this amphitheater as opposed to anyone else who might be our vendor?
I think when it comes to the music industry, that this city is so deeply enriched by, I don't think there's another company on the planet that understands that business as well as we do. If you look at the Ryman, it's won the Polestar Theatre of the Year for the last 13 years. The Opry is unique, one of a kind. We run theatres here, we run theatres in Austin. We understand this, and we have, truly, I think we have an incredible relationship with the music industry that has taken us essentially 100 years to build. So, you know, when we went to London 2 weeks ago, we took 5 world-class artists that any one of those artists could have filled Wembley Stadium in front of, 75,000 people. And we took 5 of them, put them in the Royal Albert Hall, 6,000 seats, because of the relationship we have with those artists. So I think that's what we have. And the other thing is, I do believe this is important, and that is this company has been here for a long, long time. And we truly cherish Nashville, and I think we've done a lot to really further the entertainment industry within this city. And I think we'll be a very good partner for the city of Nashville here.
Any other questions, comments? We have a motion on the floor to pass this bill on second reading as amended. All in favor of the bill as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? Bill has passed second reading.
Thank you very
all
much.
so much.
Thank you.
That concludes our bills, and we are now going to be moving into a presentation from Ashley Batchelder, who is the interim chair of the Metro Arts Commission. So as everyone shifts here, Ashley, you're going to move up. Do you want to roll your chair? Do you want to stand? Do you want to do whatever? Ashley's going to be doing a PowerPoint presentation on the main screen.
Where's the tornado shelter?
Thank you.
Thank you.
What's the girl?
I was done at that point.
How much? I'll watch the clock. I know we don't have a lot of time.
I think we're scheduled until 6. We have all the time in the world.
Okay,
But I'm gonna watch you stretch and whatnot.
Okay.
Promise I can't. Promise I can't stand you. Promise I can't stand you.
So before I start, I'm just going to tell you what the handouts are. The one that Councilwoman Stiles just passed around is we're recruiting undergraduate students to apply for our Community Arts Leaders program. This is our paid internship program that you all approved the criteria and guidelines for a couple months ago. If you know any young people that want paid experience working with local arts organizations. And then on November the 12th, we're calling it a reunion, a celebration of all of our Thrive artists who completed their projects in recent months from the last cycle. You'll all receive more information information about that. And then just the grant report that I emailed out to the full council a couple weeks ago. So those are the handouts that you have in front of you. And then I just want to recognize we have our new-ish PIO with me here. Darius Barati is our newest staff member at Metro Arts. And then Commissioner Lefkowitz, who chairs our grants committee, is here as well. So I am here to give you a debrief on the grant cycle that we are currently working through right now. This is my plan on the screen. I'm going to walk through the policy, process, and outcomes of this cycle that we're doing for FY26. And so, policy, what are the grant programs that we have? This is probably familiar to you, but our general operating grants, these are for our arts-based organizations in Davidson County. We categorize them by size. Organizations don't apply for a specific amount of funding. Rather, that award amount is determined by Metro Arts based on the amount of funding allocated to each category as a whole. And the way that we score those applications is that if they receive a score of 70 or above, they receive funding. But organizations do not apply for a specific grant amount. These are those budget sizes. These are the same budget sizes that we've used for the last 3 cycles. We haven't changed that, so this is rather familiar on the applicant side if they've applied before, but this is how we categorize organizations, and I'll speak more about this when I show you the results. These are our policy for our Thrive grants. So these are our artist-led, community-based projects or programming. Our eligible groups here include independent artists, artist collectives, nonprofit organizations, and as you probably remember, if an individual is applying that does not have nonprofit status, they must apply with a fiscal sponsor. That's the second year that we've had this requirement in place. These applications for Thrive projects ask about the project, the proposed impact, the community involvement, timeline, and budget. Thrive projects may request up to $15,000, and for these, the projects are scored and then they are rank ordered from highest to lowest according to the score, and we award funding until our funding is depleted. So that's a big distinction between the two grants. Thrive, you ask for a specific amount of money, and in operating, Metro Arts determines the allocation based on our budget. And then I just want to speak a little bit about our policy for our community review panels. So our scoring process uses a very community-led, community-engaged process. We have an open call for community members to be our panelists. This is a paid opportunity that is available to people who reside and live in Davidson County. We are looking for engaged community members who have an expressed interest in the arts ecosystem here and have some professional or personal experiences that align with our grant goals and our processes. We have an application process for that. Our panelists all commit to independently reviewing the applications that they are assigned and providing scores on all of the applications. Then we come together for an in-person full-day panel. We model this based on the process that the NEA uses for reviewing their grants using panels. That is where we derive our process from. And like I said, this is an open application process, and Metro Arts staff select the community panelists. So those are the overarching policies that guide our grant cycle, and this is the process that we used. So our applications were open on July the 15th to August the 15th. We opened applications the day after you all approved the criteria, and we stuck to the timeline that we told you was our goal. We receive applications on our submittable platform, and all throughout the application process, we had daily virtual opportunities for grant assistance, as well as twice a week in-person drop-in help sessions. So our staff really prioritized being very available for applicants to ask questions and get help on their applications. Once we receive applications, once the deadline passes, the applications are closed, and they are closed. We move into technical review there. That is when we look at the applications just for eligibility requirements and completion. That is done by the staff. We are not evaluating the merits or what we think about the content of the application. We are just reviewing for eligibility. And this is a period where there are some corrections that are allowable for administrative fixes. So for example, an applicant uploaded the wrong tax document and didn't provide documentation of the nonprofit status. That happened a lot. We would swap out the documents so that we could make sure all the eligibility was met. I might be missing a slide in here. So next I was going to tell you about our panel review, but I do not have a slide for that, so I'm just going to go from my memory. So our panelists, we had panelists that were assigned applications to review. We ran 4 Thrive panels and we ran 2 operating panels. We had 23 community members engage in that process. And like I said, community members review the application, score it based on the rubric, based on the training and guidance that we provide them. And that is how our panel process worked. And these are what the numbers look like so far. So I started with application period. For operating grants, we received 106 applications and 275 Thrive applications. When we moved through technical review, we had 13 denials that happened in the operating category for not meeting criteria, and we had 57 denials in the Thrive category. That puts us at 93 applications that were reviewed by operating panels and 218 Thrive applications that were reviewed by panels. And now I will show you the results of that. So for our operating applications, this is the distribution of those 93 applications that were reviewed. You see some perfect scoring applications at the 100 score down to some scoring on the lower end of the spectrum there. So this is what I mentioned at the beginning, our funding formula. So applications that scored 70% or higher are eligible for funding. The funding that is available for operating grants is scaled based on the number of grantees that qualify, that receive a passing score, and the available budget. So like I said, applicants don't apply to and request a specific amount. We determine that when we are talking about our allocations, which I have on a slide here in a little bit. This is the distribution for the Thrive scores. So this is our 218 Thrive applications, and the distribution, this is based on points. So 18 is a perfect scoring application, and 4 is the lowest score that an application may receive. And here, the funding formula, again, is that applications are rank ordered, and we award funds until our funds are depleted. And so in this case, the other important thing here is that funding is awarded at the full amount that applicants request. So if you apply for $15,000 and you are awarded, you receive $15,000. If you apply for $12,000, you get $12,000. So that's a big distinction between the operating and the Thrive. And we do it this way because we recognize the importance of budget integrity. So if somebody is applying and saying, we want to do a project and this is our budget for it that we've submitted, we want to honor that budget and provide funding for what people say a project or program costs. So when we rank order and apply the funds that we had, 15 points out of 18 ended up being the cutoff here. So applications on the right side of the line are those that ultimately received funding.
Including the 15? The line's right through it. So.
Yes, so good question. So our guidelines had a plan what if there's a tie when we run out of funding. So what happens then, and this was in our guidelines that was approved and part of the process, is that say that there is however many dots that is, I think it was 6, applications that scored 15, but there's only funding for 3 of them. Those were reviewed by 2 staff members who were not ever part of the grants process. So we had those reviewed by members of our public art staff who don't work in this part of our department. So that is how we tie broke in those cases.
Okay.
So I've covered policy, process, here are the outcomes. So I'm going to show the grants that we have in each category, and then I'm going to show some multi-year trends, which is really about our grant funding that we've had over a 5-year period. So the first decision that we have to make that is informed by a staff recommendation approved by the commission is the allocation between the 2 grant programs. What this shows is FY23 through the current year, what that allocation has been between general operating in the green and Thrive in the yellow. You all know there has been an express policy goal to support the Thrive program with greater funding. You see in FY23, there was 6% of the total grants budget allocated to Thrive. That was increased in FY24 and increased in FY25, and we maintained that funding in FY26 here. So for this grant cycle, we had $1.9 million allocated to operating and $1.3 million allocated to Thrive. This is a distribution of our operating grantees by size. So I broke this up to show so we have 79 organizations that qualified for an operating grant. Each line shows the grantees by size. So micro at the top, small, medium, mid-size through large at the bottom. In the box in the right corner, you see the range of those grant sizes. So, medium range from $10,000 and change grants to $44,000 grants. The large obviously be included in the shading there. What I can say a lot about this image, but what I want to point out here is that we have closed the gap between the size awards to large organizations to others, including in the medium and mid-size. So you see the largest grant was $46,000 this year, and several of our organizations in medium, mid-size, and large are all receiving roughly, comparable or equal within the same range amounts. And so we've really brought greater parity in the grant sizes that we are providing to organizations. This has been a big discussion, right, in recent years, where there used to be more than $100,000 gap in the size difference between the largest grants and the smallest grants. And so this is part of our commitment to equitable funding and to supporting organizations that have received less funding from Metro Arts in the past. For Thrive, we have 86 Thrive project grants this year. Last cycle, we had 75, so we have a growth of 11 projects in this category, and those range in award sizes from $5,230 to $15,750. And again, these are awarded based on what the applicant asked for. So the operating ones, we scale that way down from what is eligible for the organizations, but this honors the budget integrity, and we therefore fund at the amounts as requested. This is our overall distribution. So our grant budget, the $3.2 million. Thank you all, of course. And this is the distribution just among these different categories of grantees that I've talked about. So Thrive, and then micro through large organizations. So again, the thing that stands out is the 40% to Thrive, and then you can look at the other categories there. I have a couple other ways that I want to show this. This is a distribution of funding over the last 5 fiscal years. So FY22 through FY26. If you recall, FY24 was when the council, those of you that were on the council at that time, allocated or had an amendment for the one-time funding that boosted the grant budget that year. That's why you see that significantly higher grant budget in FY24, and our grant budget has been the same in FY23, 25, and 26. And so some of the things that stand out here, of course, again, it's the same data, so it shows the same thing, but the increase in Thrive, which is the yellow bar at the top, you can see the orange bar over time, which is the second top one. That's the grants to large organizations. You see that going down over time. You see the pink one going down over time. That's our mid-size organizations, which is in the second largest category. And then you see an increase in the purple, which is our medium organizations. This shows the same data, but it just shows it as percentage-wise. I think it's a little easier to visually compare across the years. But again, you can see that we've really reallocated, redistributed a lot of funding that has for 4 years gone primarily to the large and mid-size organizations. So that's, again, our orange and pink blocks on the 2022 year. And you see a lot of that has been reallocated to Thrive, as shown in the larger yellow blocks on the right size, as well as the growth in purple and blue. Those are our medium organizations and our small organizations. And so I think that there's a lot that we can say about these visuals and the distribution of grants. But that is what I have put together for you. And so I think that this is my last slide. So again, I've covered our policy, our process, and the outcomes that we have here. And the annual report provides some of the same information, but a detailed list of our grantees as well.
We're going to open the floor up for some questions. Councilmember Stiles?
Thanks for putting this together. I, of course, still unhappy with this department. One, because we have not managed to get to 50% in terms of a split. But my question is, and this is probably for you, Heather, when are we going to start the executive director search? We have had an interim director, 2 interim directors, and she has to still go back to her original department. And I was told that the search was going to start in July. So when are you all bringing it to the table so we can get started and get someone in this department to make this department whole? You've done a phenomenal job.
I mean, I've been liaising with Director
Okay.
Hall. I mean, do you want?
You can start it.
Sure. So we've had conversations and have really focused on doing the things that need to get caught up in order to bring somebody into an environment where we have a shared assessment of our work and alignment with our staff and our commission. We're working through a process for that. We're also focused on filling our vacancies and getting the grant process clearly documented processes in place that work, so that we don't bring somebody in where it's just not ready for someone to walk into. So we're planning our director search in the new calendar year, but we are getting closer to it.
I mean, in the time that Ashley's been.
Could you introduce yourself?
I'm sorry, I'm Heather Lefkowitz, and I chair the grants committee, but in the time that Ashley's been with us, they have managed the staff to close and start and award 3 different grant cycles. We've been launching searches for grants manager, for our public information officer, for our public art manager, so big senior positions that we also need. Our committees are in really great shape and are running well, so we've been doing a lot. We had an annual retreat as a commission this summer, and took the opportunity to do some, not strategic planning, but thinking about goals. So for the first time since I've been on the commission in 2 years, we are on the same page about having some high-level conversations, as Ashley said, that can guide our search so that we know what we're looking for. And so I feel really great about that. And I can't sing the praises of the staff and Ashley. They've all, it's just a completely different type of organization right now in terms of what we've been able to get done and get money out the door. And we promised the community that was what they wanted, was us to get the money out the door for the end of the year, and that is happening. So to me, it's a huge accomplishment.
Okay,
And-
so that doesn't help me with the timeline. So we're talking about, say, January, February, perhaps we're working our way towards that? Because, I mean, when we're talking about July, I'd just like to have a better idea.
Well,
We have
we
a
were-
lot of executive director positions that are open, but this one has been problematic for a long time. So to have a stable person, not that you're not stable, you've done a phenomenal job, but you have to go back to MHRC. So there has to be someone that takes over this department. And of course, after the rant from Nashville Shakespeare at the last meeting, speaks to the fact that we're not on the page that we need to be on. I don't feel good about how equity is being handled 100%. Just to be clear, I'm not finished with my fight with Metro Arts. So wherever we're going next, we need to be making our way to 50%. We need to be making our way towards artists in this city feeling like we're actually moving forward, because I can tell you right now, I feel like we've gone back. And whatever we need to do to move the needle so that we have somebody that has a background in art, can do racism work, that's where we need to be moving forward. This is very pretty, but when you have an established organization like Nashville Shakes coming up and going off, we're not winning. So I am hoping that when we move into, and I can tell you right now, because I was out of town for these last pieces of legislation that came forward, so I couldn't say anything. I'll be ready for the next one, and I'm gonna be making some changes. So, just to give you prepped for that, we need to get artist trust back. And looking at these numbers, I don't feel great. I think we are making gains, and that looks pretty and it sounds good, but when you continue to talk to artists that are saying, it still didn't work out, Nashville Shakes didn't get any money, that just is ridiculous. And then also, you said there were 218 applications for Thrive, but then the amount of people that got money, I'm trying to understand between that number and the amount of people that got awards, that doesn't line up to me.
We have 86 Thrive, which is higher than what it was last year. And I'll also say we have a lot of thorough discussion in our committee meetings, and all of you are, of course, I know schedules you can't control all the time, but we debriefed a 2-hour debrief discussion in our grants committee on Monday. Our process overall worked as it should. There were some outliers. We've been having conversations with everybody who has an opinion, feedback, comments to share about it. That's what we have been spending the last weeks doing. And
And you're having, each night this week, Ashley's having, community engagement sessions with artists and organizations. There's 2 in person and 1 online. We are trying to be completely transparent about the process and responsive, and so we recognize that it wasn't perfect. But again, in those community engagement sessions, people told us that they wanted us to get the money out the door this year, and we are doing that. So
I hear money out the door, and I think there are a lot of great sound bites, and I think great visuals, but I don't think money out the door meant any way possible, by any means possible. In many ways, this feels like that's what happened.
so is there a specific part that you have a question?
So when the legislation came for me, I felt like there was pressure because it was like, we got to get these grants, we got to get them out the door, we got to get them out the door. But we had not had a conversation as a council for you to come forth and present how this grant process was going, and it became, just fire breathing down our necks. And what happens, and this has happened with many pieces of legislation, there's pressure, and we got to get it done right this second, because if we don't, the world's going to explode. And it felt that way when this legislation came, because we did not have a comprehensive conversation. And so now, in hearing the complaints from organizations and individual artists, this is the outcome that one would expect when we have not fully had a conversation with the total, not just this committee, but I just feel like because this department has had so many issues, it needs to be a larger conversation. I've certainly asked the chair of this committee to do a publicly called meeting so we can hear how things are going. And however we got to Nashville Shakes not getting any money, we need to fix that for next year. There's no world in which it makes sense.
So one change that I think is just helpful context, in 2024, there was a change that a change was made in 2024. So when the applications were redone under a former director, that moved from professional adjudication for panel reviews, we moved to a community panel. We, like I said, we have open applications for community members to apply. We spread the word about that and those opportunities as much as possible. We have different people reviewing applications every year. So we've used this rubric for some groups twice and for some groups 3 times. It's the same rubric that we've kept in place since, like I said, 2024. The thing that's different in this cycle is that we use, for these last 3 cycles, community panelists, different panelists every year. We have seen that there's a lot of more variation when we do that, right? The choice to have these grants reviewed by community members instead of, quote, quote, professionals that are not from our local community. That's some of I'm naming that as a thing that we're having lots of discussion about, and it's only the 2nd or 3rd time, depending what organization you are, that you've received a score under this. So we saw a lot of
how many people do you have on the panel? Because I know that was another complaint, is that there are not enough people on the panel to be making good decisions.
We have 3 and 4 people on panels. So
are
part
you
of it is
talking about increasing that?
We absolutely are talking about increasing it. Part of it is processing the volume of applications that we had this year. We had a record-breaking number of applications, and we're setting up our systems to process all of that. we have all talked about outliers in the process, but overall, the process overall worked as it should.
The community-based panelist was in 2024, the previous director and the staff decided that was, we wanted more. We wanted decisions about arts funding to be made in the community. The downside of that is, right, potentially, that there may be, as Ashley said, kind of more variations. So this is, again, just the second or third time that we've used those panelists. That was a robust discussion and a working discussion we had in grants committee yesterday, whether we will go back to professional adjudicators for some of our grant reviews or stay with community panels.
Sorry, I'm not the chair of this meeting. What am I doing?
CM
Just
Bradford,
doing my
it's
things.
okay.
So a couple things. You know, it's great that you're trying to draw down some of the large organization funding, but then I see National Opera actually went up nearly $10,000. Then, again, with National Shakes, Oz Arts, other mid to micro size not getting money, I'm concerned that, one, some of these organizations are losing out because these large entities that have millions of dollars in revenue are still being subsidized at a higher amount at the expense of these smaller organizations that provide a lot more free events. Secondly, I'm concerned about this community process because, as has already come out from this discussion, it's not consistent year to year. And when I'm putting myself in the mind of someone who is writing these grants, trying to plan their operational budget for the next year, that kind of inconsistency is troublesome. And we need to have a more consistent review process so that we don't have organizations getting different amounts each year.
Yeah, so first about the differences in award amounts, the specific one that you named about opera went from 18 to 27, I think. I don't got the numbers almost memorized. The 18,000 in the large category the year before was an outlier in the large category, and so we did not distribute more to the large category, but we distributed it differently within the large category. So that was the reason for the increase there is because of the funding formula. So what I didn't show on here are the different, mathematical formulas that determine the award sizes and how we scale those. I can get into the weeds if you want me to, or I can send it as a follow-up as well. I've got a document that walks through the math at each step that I've shared with the commission.
That'd be good to see.
Yeah, I can write me a note, the formula. So again, the funding formula and the percentages, if you've heard, well, what percentage am I going to get? That's something that we again maintained from the changes that were implemented in FY24 that we know need another look at them. And like Commissioner Lefkowitz said, I mean, we spent the spring going around and hearing, don't make major changes. These award sizes are fairly predictable. If you do the same thing for the next cycle, which is this cycle, which is already behind, let's just do that. We know that, if I got around this size, and if I get it again next year, it'll be around the same size as well, with some changes that we did make to bring down the largest award sizes. We brought the largest award sizes down from 66,000 to 46,000. And again, we put that into the bottom of the size scale that's demonstrated in the numbers that you have here. Your second question or comment, I guess, just about the panelist is that that's the conversation that we are having now. And, I think that there's pros and cons to using local community members or people who are not local to our community we're talking about. Is there a hybrid where we have, some of both? What people expressed 3 years ago very strongly was that there wants to be more community control and community decision making over these awards, and the panel is one strategy to do that. This is, shows again, overall the process worked with some outliers, and we know that we can make process tweaks and improvements as we go. Was there a specific question that I didn't answer?
No, but I do have another one. So talking about the community-based committee, has there been conversations or has there been something that's been put in place to try and limit, like I get why people want more community input and decision-making, because this is our community, this is our art. But I also fear too, when you've got a bunch of people from the local community, there's going to be biases. They're going to have particular artists or groups that they want to see the funding. Whereas if you have someone who's not from the area, they're not going to have kind of their favorite organization. So what has been done or will be done to ensure that these community reviewers are being impartial when they're grading and looking at these grants?
So, I mean, I would start just by thinking about recruitment and people that know about this opportunity and how we reach people, to the training and guidance and the monitoring of the panels as they're happening. And so, I mean, structurally, is there a hybrid model that we could explore? And then we could certainly spend more time on a longer timeline, really looking at our just method of how we're getting the word out, how we're getting applications coming in for this opportunity. We could put more specific criteria on it. Criteria don't necessarily account for bias or, preferential interpretation of how you interpret an artwork, right? But, we can certainly continue to look at our rubrics and
one thing I will say is we had several commissioners came, I was one of them, to the panels to just do some observation. And I will say that Metro Arts staff was there at every step in each panel, monitoring, listening for things. And there was also, I don't know how to say it, not corrective conversations, but there was a lot of conversation with panelists as the day went on, in terms of if there was something we wanted to remind them of or things like that. So it was very much not like them going into a room by themselves and talking, but there was observation and exchange with staff, which I thought was helpful.
And then just one last question, kind of in regards to the point Councilmember Stiles was making of trying to move that needle back closer to a 50-50 split. If, for example, all the large groups were dropped to $10,000 or $20,000 and that's it, how far would that move that needle to free up more funding for Thrive?
Well, it's a question of the allocation between Thrive and operating, because right now the way the model is built is that whatever we take stays in operating, right? So if I were in my Excel sheets just to delete those awards, it redirects the money to small organizations. So the question is about allocation between Thrive and operating, and then how we build our operating mathematical model.
Though it doesn't sound like a bad idea anyway to take those down and spread it to the groups below, because again, to the point, some of these large groups, you're looking at multi-million-dollar revenue, and we're giving them $40,000, almost $50,000 a year, at the expense of smaller groups that could use that money more and spread that money further.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we can have those conversations over the next weeks, and I have talked to organization representatives from largest of the large all the way down to, organizations that have no revenue, no budget, right? And so, yeah, I mean, this year what we focused on, because we didn't change the criteria, we did not exclude any organizations this year, right? We did not make major changes to the criteria, but we continued to change our allocation, where I also have, if I can send it to you as a follow-up, we have the data for these 5-year ones, and so, the changes that we have made over time and continued to make in the large category, that, overall is just 9% of our whole budget, or our whole grants budget right now. So that's how we've addressed these concerns around equitable funding this year, is by allocation, because we didn't change the criteria. But we have, several months before we are talking about applications again. So those are conversations we're having.
Related to the director search too, though, that's kind of what we're trying to get at as a commission, to get on the same page about where we want to go with these numbers. We have, for the first time, I think, a fully staffed commission, and we want to get on the same page, right, about where we're going. And I think that will be really important in terms of moving this.
I just want to emphasize, our commission meetings are so different than they were. We discuss policy for 2 hours straight. We are at the point where our body is able to have these deliberations and talk about this. And if you came to Arts Commission meetings before, you know that we could not have thorough and robust policy conversations. And that is what we're having now, and that has been our goal for the last 10 months since I've started, is make the operations work and get the body aligned so we can talk about the policy that guide our work.
Just one last statement. So generally speaking, when directors come in, many times they want to bring their own people. So it sounds to me you all are trying to put people in places and then hire a director. So are you also prepared that the director comes in and they don't want to keep any of the people that you've hired because it doesn't work for them?
All of our positions are civil service, so they're all hired, and I have focused my hiring on intentional onboarding training because that was not done in the past. I've hired a finance administrator who had more work than I had to do, sort of working on our finance things. I've hired our PIO. My next hire will be our grants manager, followed by a public art manager, so those 2 team leads. And we have had discussion about the importance of that and that we need people in those roles in order to continue the good work that we are doing, with people feeling supported and the internal work that we have spent a lot of time doing on our team.
Right, got it. But directors wanting their own people, we're prepared for that too. So when you hire someone, what if a director comes in, it's great civil service, but I mean, people come into departments and they have people that they might want to bring in that they know they work really well with. Are we aware that that's a thing that's going to happen while we're busy staffing all of these positions at the same time?
Well, if Metro Arts has open positions, then
we're not functional without
we need a
those
full
positions.
staff to do our work, and I've been focused on staffing our office.
Okay.
Well, we are just about out of time here. Thank you so much, Ashley, for the presentation. Thank you, CM Stiles, for staying till the end.
Oh, it's Metro Arts. There's nowhere else I would be.
The roster table. On that, thank you all for being here. This actually officially concludes today's meeting of the Apple Committee here at Metropolitan Nashville Government. Thank you so much.
Okay, good.